second and second. This is the Pix 11 News at 6.
Now at 6, one of the most powerful storms to ever hit the United States, Ida, now downgraded to a tropical depression as it continues to move inland through Mississippi after slamming Louisiana.
Meanwhile, new video just released by the U.S. Air Force shows a very different reality. Hurricane hunters are flying through the clouds and into the center of the hurricane moments before making landfall. Thanks so much for joining us for the news at 6. I'm Corey Chambers.
And I'm Shirley Chan in for Tamsin tonight. Right now, more than 1 million people across southeast Louisiana have no power after 8 major transmission lines were damaged.
Yeah, tonight, some officials in New Orleans are saying it could take weeks for power to be restored. The Louisiana National Guard activated nearly 5,000 Guard personnel to assist in rescues.
Pix 11's Craig Treadway is in the newsroom with the very latest for us. Craig.
Well, Shirley, in Corey, New Orleans, Mayor LaToya Cantwell is advising residents who evacuated the city ahead of Hurricane Ida to not return until further notice due to those power outages and other damages. Other southeastern portions of the state, as well as parts of Mississippi, are dealing with the aftermath of what officials called one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the region. Exactly 16 years after it was devastated by Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Ida has New Orleans once again picking up the pieces, with other areas along the Gulf Coast of the state inundated with floodwaters, storm surge, and catastrophic winds from the slow-moving storm that pummeled the area for 16 hours over the weekend before it was downgraded to a tropical storm.
Oh, that roof is coming. Holy!
The Pentagon, in coordination with FEMA, activating National Guardsmen from surrounding states for rescue and recovery efforts.
They bring a variety of assets, including high water vehicles, rotary lift, and other transportation capability to support recovery efforts.
President Biden leading a FEMA briefing this afternoon on Ida's devastation.
For those who have lost their homes, states working with the American Red Cross have already opened 50 shelters in the affected areas across the Gulf Coast.
We were sitting here and we heard some crackling, and then in slow motion, the tree just came toppling over and, like I say, hit the roof of the porch.
Floyd Goudet considering himself lucky. His front porch damaged by this toppled over tree in Bell River, but his house spared. But from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to LaForge, southeastern Louisiana is facing a major cleanup from what FEMA officials call one of the most powerful storms to ever hit the region. Now, according to power company Energy, some 2,000 miles of transmission lines are out of service due to the storm damage. 911 services have been restored in the city of New Orleans as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. Some 13 states have pledged National Guardsmen to support the state's recovery. And at just after 5 p.m., Governor John Bel Edwards reported that Guardsmen had rescued 191 people in Jefferson, St. John, and Orleans parishes. Corey, Shirley?
Wow. I'll tell you, the sides of this thing, just massive. Craig, thank you so much for that. And as the storm continues to move inland, we're going to see its impact here in the tri-state region.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. G certainly has more for us, and some of that is headed our way. G.
All right, and the big story is going to be the rain, and the rain is going to come down very hard Wednesday late in the afternoon, Wednesday night. Top winds at 35 miles per hour north, and east, and 20 miles to the north, and west of Jackson, Mississippi. But you see the rain flying in the eastern, northeastern quadrant in the Tennessee Valley, and here it comes right across the state of Tennessee, begins to bend to the north and east, more east than north and east, and then it begins to approach the tri-state area. Wednesday, later on in the afternoon, Wednesday night. Remember, this was the 5th largest hurricane to hit the mainland, so the remnant low is going to be very impressive in terms of moisture field. Flash flood watch in effect from Wednesday in the afternoon through Thursday in the afternoon. A couple of clusters running around now, not an organized line, dissipating a little bit, should not worry. A couple of lightning strikes south of New Jersey, so we're going to have to watch that. So a straight thunderstorm about 7 o'clock, then a cloud cover. More on the big storm and how it affects us and the timing and when it arrives and how much rain. We'll chat later on.
This is breaking news from Pix 11.
It is the end of America's longest war. The United States has officially completed its withdrawal from Afghanistan today.
Yeah, thousands of troops had spent the last 2 weeks preparing for this and protecting risky airlift missions. There are tens of thousands of Afghans, Americans, and others seeking to escape a country once again ruled by Taliban militants. The departure marks the first time in nearly 2 decades that the U.S. and its allies have not had troops on the ground in Afghanistan. The last plane took off from Kabul airport at 3:29 p.m. our time, 1 minute before midnight Monday in Kabul. Well, the Department of Education is investigating whether school mask bans in 5 states violate the rights of students. The agency sent a letter to education officials in Oklahoma, South Carolina, Iowa, Tennessee, and Utah, informing them of this investigation. Federal investigators want to look into whether prohibiting mask requirements discriminates against students with health conditions who are at higher risk of getting seriously ill from COVID-19. The investigation does not include Florida and Texas, where courts have blocked the ban from taking effect. Well, the state of New Jersey will not be extending pandemic unemployment benefits. Governor Murphy made that announcement today, saying the benefits will expire on September 4th. That will affect around 500,000 people in the state. The extended benefits started in response to the pandemic and came from federal COVID relief funds. Governor Murphy now saying it's just not possible for the state to continue to extend those benefits.
The reality is that continuing the $300 per week benefit through state resources would be cost prohibitive. It would cost at current at least $314 million per week and perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars more.
Governor Murphy also said that no other state is extending the programs past September 4th.
While much of the country is experiencing new waves of COVID cases fueled by the Delta variant, New York City appears to be one of the exceptions. The latest data shows key indicators moving in the right direction across the 5 boroughs. City health officials are reporting declines in infections and hospitalizations. Medical professionals credit the city's quick response to the variant with increased vaccine outreach and enforcement of guidelines.
We've re-implemented indoor masking at most places, and now you can't even get into any indoor area, whether it be restaurant, theater, what have you, without showing your proof of vaccination. So I think all of those measures are really helping New York.
And the city has been focusing its efforts on areas with higher than average COVID cases, including several neighborhoods in Staten Island and in Queens. You see these neighborhoods right here on your screen. The CDC did not endorse booster shots, meantime, for the general public. That happened at today's meeting. The advisory panel saying more studies are needed to determine a timeline for when 3rd doses would be most effective for most people. The panel says the delivery of the first shots among the unvaccinated should take priority over boosters. U.S. regulators have already approved 3rd doses for the at-risk population. The panel will meet once again before September 20th. That is the date the federal government had set as the rollout for wider booster distribution.
Well, scientists from South Africa say they've identified a new COVID variant. This one is known as C12. The new strain, first identified by the scientists back in May. It's been since found in 6 of South Africa's 9 provinces. It's also been discovered in other countries like New Zealand, Switzerland, and Portugal. Scientists say the variant's mutation causes it to be more transmissible. Meanwhile, the European Union is removing the United States from its safe travel list. The group recommended that its 27 countries reinstate restrictions on American tourists. It's because of rising COVID infections in the country. The move reverses advice the EU gave in June. That's when it recommended lifting restrictions on U.S. travelers before the summer tourism season. The U.S., on the other hand, has yet to reopen its own borders to European tourists, and that's despite calls from the group for the Biden administration to lift the ban. Well, coming up, a new state-of-the-art technology is promising to bring closure to several families impacted by the 9/11 terror attacks. We're going to explain how.
Plus, Governor Hochul's first subway crisis. Details on her plans for the MTA after last night's massive power failure that left hundreds of riders in the dark. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
As we approach the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, new DNA technology is providing hope for those still waiting for the final identification of their loved ones' remains. New York City Medical Examiner's Office will begin using a new forensic method that is more advanced than that was previously used. The Department of Defense has used the technology to analyze the remains of soldiers from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. More than 1,100 9/11 victims have never been identified.
Subway service is finally back on track after nearly half the lines came to a halt and hundreds had to be rescued overnight.
Yeah, the incident was the first major MTA challenge for the new governor, Kathy Hochul. Powerful surge happened around 8:30 last night when the MTA tried to switch back to its main power system. All communications on the numbered trains and the L train went offline for hours. More than 500 people had to be evacuated from stuck trains, and full service wasn't restored until about 1:30 this morning.
Governor Kathy Hochul calling the series of events that led to the overnight subway outage unprecedented and unacceptable, and is now vowing to get to the bottom of what happened and make changes.
Perfect storm that was created hasn't happened before, but now that it has, we will learn lessons from this, make sure it doesn't happen again.
Earlier today, Governor Hochul said several backup systems also failed, and she has hired 2 independent engineering firms to look into the issue.
Well, tonight, an 80-pound cougar is under the care of the Humane Society after being rescued from an apartment in the Bronx this weekend.
Yeah, the Humane Society just released this photo of the big cat nicknamed Sasha. The cougar is 11 months old and was surrendered by the owners. Sasha spent the weekend at the Bronx Zoo receiving veterinary care and will be heading to a wildlife refuge in Arkansas.
Tonight, advocates continue to call for the passing of the Big Cat Public Safety Act that would strengthen existing laws to prohibit the breeding and possession of big cat species like lions, tigers, and jaguar. The bill stalled in the Senate since July of 2020. But look at that picture. Imagine opening up your door and seeing this big cat staring back at you.
And this is not the first time that something like this has happened, where we have caught wildlife in a New York City apartment. Defies reason. All right, still to come. Fighting to keep alive the memory of a very special building.
Neighbors in Brooklyn rallied today in hopes of saving the Grand Prospect Hall from demolition, but it's not an easy task. We'll explain why ahead.
Welcome back. A community group in Brooklyn is fighting to save a beloved venue from being torn down.
Yeah, they held a rally today outside at Grand Prospect Hall after learning that the building's new owners filed papers to demolish it. Pick 7's Michelle Ross is live for us in front of Grand Prospect Hall with more. Michelle.
Corey, Shirley, you know that famous commercial with the husband and wife, Michael and Alice Helkias. Now, they bought this building in the early 80s, and it's now covered in scaffolding. Now, unfortunately, Michael died due to COVID last year. He was 82 years old, and his death ultimately led Alice to the decision of selling this building. But now activists have collected 8,000 signatures in 10 days, hoping to salvage it. It's the opera tune that brings your mind back to the good old days.
We make your dreams come true.
The Grand Prospect Hall.
Legendary commercial for the Grand Prospect Hall is a happy memory for New Yorkers. And soon, that's all it'll be if immediate action isn't taken.
This developer knew what he was doing. He knew how to sneak this thing through and rip out the guts.
The building was purchased for $22 million in June, and with demolition permits filed, the 4-story Victorian-style building, which served the community for 4 decades, is at risk of being torn down.
Save Prospect Hall!
Activists of all ages rallying outside the venue Monday, recalling their favorite memories from inside, from weddings to festivals to Halloween parties.
It's special in a way that most places aren't for me.
With the Statue of Liberty in the line of vision, they say it also speaks to the hall's role in the early immigrant experience.
The decor would remind immigrants of like the grand theaters of particularly Eastern Europe.
16-year-old Solya Spiegel is leading the effort to save the building, who says it helped her learn more about herself.
I was adopted at 1.5 from Hungary. I was born in Hungary, and I came here, and this has been a place where I've been able to learn about my heritage.
And they've gotten the attention of the mayor, a former Park Slope resident who's on board with at least saving the facade.
I certainly would love to see that happen. I'm going to see what the city can do to make that happen.
But if it doesn't happen, the building and the spirit of these activists will be crushed. Now, the activists acknowledge that development is inevitable, but they are hoping that the developer keeps the building as a community space for the neighborhood. I also reached out to the developer's attorney for comment, and he declined. In Park Slope, Michelle Ross, Pix 11 News.
All right, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Really? All right. Well, we're going to see what happens this week weather-wise. Nice picture out there of the city, Mr. G. What's ahead?
Well, one more good day. That's in the hopper for your Tuesday, and then a bit of a change, then a major change. The bid is Wednesday early, but by Wednesday night comes down hard. The rain does. 82, 78 degrees, high slip. The water temperature 73. A couple of pop-ups here and there just south and west of the city. They seem to be diminishing in intensity just in the north and west of the city. Crews going close up. You can see it outside of Ramapo. You can see it outside of Mount Pleasant. You can see it outside of Patterson. These are light to moderate showers. No lightning strikes recorded with this action. 82 degrees right now. The humidity is trying to come down. It will progressively, and certainly tomorrow. Dew points will be lower as well. There's a cluster that comes by tomorrow at around 2 o'clock. Looks like it's south of the city. Now let's go to work on the future. This is Tropical Depression Ida. By the time it gets to us, it's a remnant low. Top winds 35 miles per hour north, north and east, 5 miles per hour, 20 miles to the north and west of Jackson, Mississippi. A lot of moisture. Remember, this is the 5th greatest hurricane that hit the mainland, the coastal section, of course, of the Gulf. And now the residual moisture from this great hurricane is now climbing rapidly across the country east of the Mississippi. Flash flood warnings and watches and flood warnings are in effect. You can see it throughout Mississippi, but the flood watch extends all the way up to the city and to Boston. So you're talking about the Gulf of Mexico, everything east of the Mississippi up to Boston. That's a big, big deal. This is the GFS model. This is the model that's done very, very well with this system. Coming across Tennessee Valley, there it is in Nashville. Coming into the city, there it is Wednesday in the afternoon, Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And it seems that's where the action is, from midnight to about Thursday, 9, 10 o'clock. For the copious amounts of rain, that's 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's Wednesday night into Thursday midday. Look at 3 to 4 inches. That's what this storm can do. Spots 5 inches, not out of the question. Don't forget, it becomes a great hurricane, becomes a great tropical storm, becomes a great depression, and becomes a great remnant low. Just a great bit of action with this. Rain hard Wednesday, late Wednesday night into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The holiday weekend looks good.
This segment brought to you by BetMGM Sports. Place your parlays, props, and futures bets at the king of sportsbooks. Get the app today.
Winning on the field and winning off the field are not mutually exclusive. In fact, when you're a superstar, I think it comes with a responsibility to do just great things. Aaron Judge, he gets it. You see, Mason Ferrelli, he's a huge Yankee fan. He loves Aaron Judge. Mason, he was diagnosed with brain cancer a few years ago, but his passion, it hasn't changed. And he pulled out a rare, one-of-a-kind Aaron Judge baseball card, and take a look.
Come on, man. Give us something. Please. Oh! Oh! 1 out of 1! Oh my God! No! Oh my God!
But you see, that's not all. Last week, Mason got to meet his hero in Oakland. Judge, he not only signed that card, but also gave Mason a special jersey. You know, Aaron was talking about it. He says Mason is tough, he's resilient, he puts a smile on your face, and he is right about that. I think we could all say we're on Team Mason right there. I love that story. All right, tonight, Aaron and the Yankees are in Anaheim. They're going to take on the Angels. Late start. There's also the Mets to talk about. Coming up next, we're talking Javi Baez and, of course, the U.S. Open. We'll be right back. So the Mets had a good weekend. They won a couple games, which is great. But you see, big picture, what we saw from Javi Baez is not only disappointing, but just a blatant display of not understanding what baseball is really all about. Javi, you see, the fans, they pay your salary. Quick recap here. Lately, the fans have been booing the Mets, and you can't blame them. Well, Baez decided to boo the fans with the thumbs down sign here, and just take a listen.
To let them know that when we don't get success, we're going to get booed. So they're going to get booed when we success.
Yeah, fans have the right to boo. Give the fans something to cheer about, and they will. You know, we've been talking to some Met fans and definitely know where you guys stand. Take a listen to this.
I guess he's not used to New York, so maybe, I might boo Sandy Alderson for some of the moves he's made, but I don't,
These guys got to get their acts together, play better, hustle, and perform. You're getting paid.
Yes, you're getting paid. There's a lot going on in Queens. U.S. Open is back in business. Novak Djokovic is going for a calendar Grand Slam. And granted, some of the biggest names aren't going to be there this year. But that's definitely not stopping the fans from getting their tennis. Justin Walters has more.
Just take a look at this atmosphere behind me. The U.S. Open is 100% open to fans. It's the first time since the pandemic began that a tennis tournament is at full capacity. The one initial speed bump were some unexpected long lines because of proof of a vaccination is required. I spoke to a few fans and the U.S. Open tournament director about the day one excitement.
Here we are now in 2021, same focus, still a pandemic, but to be able to do it with our fans back has been incredible. So it's a great collaborative effort with the New York State Department of Health, New York City, Mount Sinai, our medical doctors, collaboration both ATP and WTA. So it's a big undertaking, but everyone really, if we could, wanted to be able to have our fans back, especially the players.
I think most everybody on the line understood why we were on the line. Obviously, the U.S. Open is trying to keep us all safe, checking vaccination at the gate. We had images ourselves, so I think if you keep that in mind, why are we waiting in line? A, we're coming to see some great tennis. We haven't been here in a long time. B, the line itself is long because there's a process to keep us all safe. I didn't hear many people complaining.
When it comes to action on the court, Naomi Osaka plays later tonight at 7, and then tomorrow, Novak Djokovic begins his chase to a calendar Grand Slam. In Queens, Justin Walters, Pix 11 Sports.
Love the U.S. Open. Of course, we'll have all of your coverage. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
And love that New York City hosts it every year.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for watching us here at 6. I'm Corey Chambers.
And I'm Shirley Chan. Tune in again tonight for the Pix 11 News at 10. Have a great evening, everyone.